evening. It is October the 12th, 2021, and it is a regular Brevard County Commission meeting, and we have Mr. Austin Green with us tonight. Sir.
Let's pray. God, we just come to you tonight, and we are incredibly thankful to be a part of an amazing community here in Brevard. God, we pray for tonight's meeting. We pray that you would bless this meeting. God, we pray for the decisions, God, the agenda that's being made. God, we pray for clarity and wisdom, God, for these leaders as they make these decisions. God, we pray that you would just continue to bring your favor and blessing to our community, God, that we're so thankful to be a part of. God, bless this meeting tonight, and it's in Jesus' mighty name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
We have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting to order.
Can you please stand at the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, can I have a motion to approve 3 sets of minutes?
You got it, as to all three.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Lober.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Zonka. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. We're about to get started into resolutions, but before I do, I know we're getting ready to honor a great man here. It's good to see you again, Pat. But also, before we get started, I wanted to give a shout out to Marcia Newell. Miss you incredibly, and you two have just done so much good for our county, and I just want to open up and say that, and I'm going to turn that over to you, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Patrick Woodard, come on down, man.
Yeah.
You know the drill. It's my great honor to read this. Whereas Pat Woodard, Chief of Staff to District 4 Commissioner Kurt Smith, retired on June 7, 2021 after a 47-year career of public service within Brevard County, beginning at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station solid waste facility way back in 1974. Whereas Pat is a lifelong resident of Brevard County, born in Rockledge, a graduate of Merritt Island High School and Brevard County Community College, and with his intellect, integrity, and faith-based principles, he has been a mentor to colleagues, constituents, current and future leaders. And think about it, folks, when he was born in Rockledge, I'm not sure Florida was even a state yet, was it?
It was.
Whereas, as a member of the Merritt Island JCs for 30 years, Pat developed a love of politics and elections, serving as president, parliamentarian, chaplain, regional and state political advisor, campaign manager, received top individual honor statewide when named senator, and was the Merritt Island chapter advisor when named the best chapter in the nation with the Harold A. Marks Memorial Award. And whereas Pat has been involved in community service projects including March of Dimes, Walkathon, Merritt Island Fireworks, MDA Telethon, bed races, Special Olympics, and dressing up as Frankenstein for the haunted houses.
That's true.
That's kind of a dubious distinction. Whereas, November 1999, Pat was elected to Palm Bay City Council, Seat 2, with 61.5% of the vote, serving through November 2008, running unopposed in 2 re-elections. And whereas, he joined the team of D4 Commissioner Mary Boleyn Lewis as a legislative aide in December of 2013 and was hired the following year by yours truly. Keeping informed of the district's needs, maintaining staff decorum, serving the commissioner loyally, and working for the constituents of Brevard County. And I don't know what I would have done without you. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, do by here extend to Patrick Woodard our sincere appreciation for his dedicated service to Brevard County and wish him many more years of mentoring. Alex, vacations with his wife. Sue, drinking Captain Morgan and Diet Cokes, especially that. And winning at Woodard Rummy, because if it does not matter if you win or lose, then why keep score? And that's Pat. Our sincere appreciation to your dedicated service to Brevard County. We wish you many more years of mentoring, et cetera, done, ordered, and adopted in regular session this 12th day of October, 2021. Madam Chair, I move to approve this resolution.
Second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, passes 4-0.
You got the floor, pal.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to have to read. So, thank you very much, Commissioner Smith, and all the others that I worked with over many years. However, I really would like to explain why I am now retired. The Commissioner and I planned on retiring in November 2022. I started having problems remembering who my friends' names were. I heard very quickly that I had a large brain cancer tumor called GBM. It is a very bad cancer that will most probably create a short life for me. 2 days later, the tumor was removed, but that type will always return. For 2 days prior to the surgery, thousands of my friends and players prayed to the Lord for my success surgery. The operation was great. Unfortunately, because of my treatment, I was required to retire from my job. So far, I'm going well with my chemotherapy and radiation. I also have a wearable, portable, PDA-approved device considered to treat and type the brain cancer. It has been 7 months since the surgery, and I believe I'm still doing very good. I would love to thank all of the people that have prayed for me. I'm very grateful, regardless of the future, and thank Commissioner Smith and the others in my office. I love the people that I have met during working at my office. God bless you all.
God bless you, buddy. There you go, man. Yes. Sue.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Love you guys too.
And Pat, I must say you look kind of dapper with your hat on. We're going to move into another resolution. Commissioner Zonka, ma'am.
Hey, Samantha Nazario, please. And anyone else you want to come up is fine.
I'll be the one looking for these.
Of course. They didn't want to come up with you?
No, they're gonna keep mom company.
I'm my class A, so I always like to show them off. Good evening.
Whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the many Americans of Hispanic descent who have made outstanding economic, educational, and cultural contributions to our city, state, and nation. And whereas local Hispanic Americans continue their strong tradition of serving to the service to the community through their work at the United Third Bridge, a civil rights organization founded by Samuel C. Lopez in 1977 that promotes the advancement of minorities in the areas of education, culture, and employment. And whereas special events are taking place throughout the state of Florida and across the nation in observance of Hispanic Heritage Month, celebrating the rich cultural traditions and remarkable impact on American society made by the Hispanic American community. And whereas Brevard's annual Puerto Rican Day Parade, a Hispanic Heritage Month tradition started by Samuel C. Lopez 24 years ago as a gift to children of Hispanic descent, has grown into the largest local celebration of Puerto Rican heritage, but is postponed this year due to COVID. And whereas the impacts of COVID-19 on this year's celebration, hosted by the United Third Bridge, and the passing earlier this year of their founder, Samuel C. Lopez, the organization still invites all citizens to learn and celebrate the traditions and ancestry of Hispanic Americans during this month. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, does hereby proclaim the month of September 15th through October 15th, 2021 as Hispanic Heritage Month, and recognizes the outstanding economic, educational, and cultural contributions of Hispanic Americans to Brevard County. Done, ordered, and adopted in regular session this 12th day of October, AD 2021. And Chairwoman, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Zonka, second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, passes 4-0.
Floor is yours.
This one's going to be a little hard for me. This is my first time in this room without Mr. Lopez. 4 years ago, we came to you guys wanting help. Commissioner Kirk was, Mr. Smith was an amazing, oh man, I'm not emotional. Sorry about this. Okay. Commissioner Kirk was instrumental in helping us with our Puerto Rico Relief Fund. This is a new one for me, Edwin. And we want to thank you on behalf of his children, Samantha Bickman, Samuel Jr., Emmanuel Lopez, and our board members, our future. My son is one of those many children that gave over 100 hours in that hangar as we helped, Brevard County helped us send 1 million pounds of relief to Puerto Rico in 2017, a relief effort like nothing else that has ever come out of this county. We kind of invented the wheel, which was amazing to see how so many other relief efforts have gone and used the wheel that we made and made it happen. I know that Mr. Lopez and Kurt had a very special friendship. He was our ally in the community, the same way you've been, Christine, for many years. I'm newly acquainted with Ms. Pritchett and Mr. Lober, but I am so grateful for you guys allowing us to still get the resolution even though he's no longer with us. We thank you on behalf of the Hispanic community, which is ever growing in Brevard, and thanks to the census, we're your new supermajority. So it's amazing to continue to work and partner with our commission on going towards our new inclusive, diverse, and beautiful future with everything that Brevard County has to offer. And he is forever missed, but he will never be forgotten. He's with me here today, and I will always make sure that his legacy lives on in Brevard County. And I thank you all for supporting United Third Bridge all these years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Say something. Thank you for everything you're doing. I have a feeling that you're going to carry the torch and carry it well. Sam and I have known each other for years. We've not always agreed on things, but you know, he always appreciated the efforts we made in the partnership that we had together, regardless of politics. You know, because the needs of the Hispanic community are nonpartisan. I mean, they just are. And I appreciate your efforts too, and your willingness to work. You know, it's not always popular for a Democrat and Republican to work together, but I think, you know, we could be that example that it shows that we can really get some good things done for our community. So thank you for all you do as well. Sam would be proud, and I'm very proud of everything that you do.
Thank you for being a great friend and an amazing ally. And since you did mention it, I will take this opportunity to, I actually started my own nonprofit, inspired by Sam and funded by my beautiful son. It's called Cultural Community Connection, and we'll be out in the community to bridge the gap and continue to partner with United Third Bridge to make Sam's legacy live on and bring something a little different to Brevard.
Thank you.
I was about to say,
Thank you
you
for
got
all you
some big shoes to fill there, but it sounds like you're taking on the challenge.
I'm trying.
Good, good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very cool. Thank you.
That's very cool.
Absolutely.
So when do we want to do these baby pictures? Next meeting? When's it coming back?
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you. He has a blood disorder, so I was like.
Aw. Okay, we're going to move into consent items. Commissioners, do you have anything you'd like to have polled?
I got a couple, Madam Chair.
Okay,
I'd like to pull F3 and F13, if that's all right.
F3 and F13, yes,
Yes,
sir.
ma'am.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the other items?
You got it.
Motion by Commissioner Lober. Second by Commissioner Zonka. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes 4-0. Commissioner Lober, the other night you kept saying D2, so I keep thinking D2 when I go to say your name now.
I've been
All
called
right.
a lot worse.
Yeah, okay. Item F3, sir.
All right, Madam Chair, I'll just tell you, this is one where if it were in my district, I'd have a very strong opinion with respect to it. This is something which disproportionately impacts your district, though. The couple thoughts I have, and I'm willing to go whatever way you want on this. I'm not looking to make a fuss just to see if you have the same feelings or different feelings as I do on this. I think the amount is awfully low, and I think the fact that it's refundable.
You're talking about holding the extra amount of time?
Yeah, I don't have a problem necessarily, but I think there needs to be, or maybe it would be better to have an incentive for them, namely to have some skin in the game by making it non-refundable or alternatively increasing the amount some. The property certainly is worth substantially more now than even when we went into an agreement with them. And I'm not saying that the primary motive is profit in selling it. Certainly we want to expand the industry there. But I think they've had a decent amount of time to do it. I don't have a problem extending it, but I'd like to either know it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. If you're good with it, though, as it is, I'll go ahead and move to support it. It's whatever you want since it's your district.
Okay, you know, when I first heard about it too, I sit in the zone meetings and I hear these guys hash it out. The things that caught my attention is they kind of got hit with the COVID, but they've already fulfilled, I think, like 75% more jobs than they were supposed to on the first
Great.
round. And I think, from what I hear, there's already the plans to go forward with the
All right, if you're comfortable with it,
situation. Yeah, I
I'll
think
go ahead and move to
it's-
approve it.
I think it's a good one. Okay, have a motion to approve. Second by Commissioner Zonka. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, passes 4-0. Item F13, sir, and I do have a card for this if you need someone for questions.
Okay, yeah, this one I'm a little more fluid with. I just kind of was hoping to see what the board thought with respect to this one. The concern I have is we have the authority to appoint this group's directors. We don't have the authority really to remove them, even if they became axe murderers. So I just have a concern with giving access to this amount of a credit line. I understand, and I don't question that we wouldn't have any financial liability as a county if we do this. I don't know that I'm necessarily thrilled with a group that we have that little control over, enabling them to borrow that much money, especially when I don't know what project or projects it's necessarily going to be used for, since we're talking about a revolving line, not necessarily an installment loan. If you guys are good with it, though, I'll support it. It's something where we don't have liability. I'm not suggesting that we go one way or the other. I just kind of wanted to see where folks are at.
Well, good. The most wonderful thing is I have Don M. Hannon, CPA, here to answer questions. So if you're here, if you'd come forward. Sounds like a good question for them.
I see Mr. Byrd as well.
I was remiss and I did not submit a card. I apologize.
That's all right. No, it's not all right. I take it back.
If you would just fill one out later for me so we have it for the record. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Dawn Hannon. I'm a CPA, and I'm a consultant for the Titusville Cocoa Airport Authority. Well, they're in the process without a CFO. And our attorney is also here. So I can answer some questions concerning the line of credit in that currently the Airport Authority has a fixed loan that has a balance of over $1.1 million. The interest rate on that loan is almost twice as much as the line of credit that we're proposing with Truist. So the interest rate would be much lower. Currently, we're spending about $175,000 a year for principal and interest on a loan that we have the money in the bank that we could pay it off today. And so we choose to pay it off. And the nature of the business is that most of the projects are funded by FDOT or FAA. And we spend the money first, and then we send in the invoices to these two organizations who reimburse us. So we only need to borrow money for 30 days. Usually, it's 30 to 60 days, depending on if they need additional documentation. So in the worst-case scenario, the line of credit would cost us about $19,000 a year. And the current loans cost us $175,000 a year.
I like the way you think.
Pardon me?
I like the way you
Madam
think.
Chair?
Yes, sir, please.
Just a couple thoughts, and,
Yes.
this is one, frankly, it's partially in my district, partially in your district, Madam Chair. That makes a lot of sense. Normally, when I'm trying to craft a solution to a problem, whether it's this sort or another sort, I try to keep the solution as narrowly tailored as I can to address the problem, because the more wiggle room that exists, the more problems can arise as a result of it. So in terms of obtaining a lower interest rate than the current rate that you have, that's commendable. I appreciate the fact that folks are looking at that. It's a good thing. They should be. They are. That's good to know. But typically, in my experience, at least with businesses that are of substantial size, they, just like individuals, when they look at a fixed loan as opposed to a line of credit, they generally have more favorable terms in terms of interest rates on a fixed loan instead of a line of credit. The other thing is, I don't have an issue if the airport wants to obtain a fixed loan, potentially at a lower interest rate than the line of credit, in an identical amount or a comparable amount to what's owed currently on that fixed loan, where the interest rate is apparently double the industry standard at this point. And I don't have an issue with it being used to repay that, but my concern is the open-endedness of the line of credit. If there were some particulars that were run by us on the front end in terms of what the real anticipated uses are, if there are any, I might be more inclined to support it. I don't know that I feel comfortable going the line of credit route, because once that's paid off, you still have the line available to you. And it's something where I don't know that I have the comfort level. I don't know what the thought process is in terms of whether a fixed loan was discussed. And if so, whether the rates, for whatever reason, might have been worse. I can't imagine, but maybe they were. Do you have any thoughts as to that?
Yes. The bank that gave us the terms on the line of credit is the same bank that we have the current loan with, the fixed loan with. And SunTrust now is Truist. They merged with
BB&T?
Yes, sir. And so they are offering better rates. We have a history with them. This loan, I believe, goes back, it was a 15-year note that approximately 5 years ago was renegotiated. And I think Adam might be able to talk better about the reason a line of credit is necessary for this type of organization.
Sure.
Because this organization generates enough revenue to support its operations. But when we are doing fixed asset projects that are, say, $2 million, $3 million, and we're responsible to pay the money first, we have to pay the vendors first, and then we get paid back. We just need some money to borrow for a short period of time. And that's why we thought the line of credit was a better option, so we're not paying interest on money we don't have, that we haven't borrowed. So we shouldn't have 1.5 million borrowed at any time throughout the year. That's the maximum amount.
Understood.
Our average projects are, the ones that I have come across in the 7 months that I have been here, the percentage that the airport authority is responsible for can be 2%, can be 20%, but they're less than $1 million. And so we also generate revenue for the rents at the 3 airports for hangars, airport storage, things of that nature that covers the percentage that the authority has to pay towards the projects.
Ms. Hannon, are you now handling the finances for the airport?
I am, yes.
Okay.
I've come in as a
All right.
consultant.
That's very comforting, because even before, when we had to make some changes, I looked over everything and the amount of money that came in and went out. It was always had the ability to do it. And I'm very excited about the new management, what's going on, because I think you're going to be getting a lot more grants in and provoke a lot more projects. I met the new guy that we brought on, and he's wonderful, and thank you for sticking around. And let me ask you this, because I know that the conflict now is that ability with the other 400,000 with the delta with what we have. But when they make these decisions, there has to be a board decision, and you're making sure everything's legal, and you're making sure all the finances are handled correctly, right? And
Yes.
it's good to have a CPA doing this now, too. So, Commissioner Lober, if you got more questions,
I do.
I'm with you, sir, but that gave me a lot of comfort there, because they do have a need for cash flow for a lot of these grants, so they get reimbursed. I did recognize that myself.
I've
so.
got a couple, and I'm not trying to be negative with respect to this. I really am not. I think you guys have improved things substantially over the past several months. The situation there was basically untenable as it was. I can tell you I have every confidence in Mr. Byrd. I have not had the pleasure of interacting with you in the past, but I don't have any reason to think that you're not doing the right thing. Certainly, the logic behind this makes a degree of sense to me. In terms of ensuring everything is lawful, I have no doubt that with a CPA and an attorney on hand reviewing these decisions, that things are going to be lawful. My concern, though, is that lawfulness isn't the only variable that is the important variable, or isn't the only important variable. There are degrees of risk tolerance, including with everything up to and including redistricting, that may be lawful, but they may subject the entity to a greater degree of risk. Now, whether it's good or bad is a subjective question, but it's not necessarily a question of lawfulness all the time. We've had, and I'm not trying to suggest anything to have you poach our employees. Frankly, I would be very upset if you were to do so, and knowing that he's on the tail end of drop, maybe he's going to be available anyway sometime soon. But our airport director down in Vacate has been absolutely exceptional. The 2 sources of grant funding where we have match dollars that consistently overperform or outperform are the beach renourishment dollars, where we get something like 9-to-1 with the Army Corps, and then the grants that our airport director gets down in Vacate, where he has gotten at a number of times north of 90% match between the FAA and FDOT. I don't know that they've ever come to us and asked to borrow $1.5 million, and I get that it's a far smaller airport than the Titusville airport, but I'm just wondering both what he's done to obtain what he needs on the front end and what you all have done historically to get some of those matches, because I can't imagine that this is his or your or anyone's first time at the rodeo with these airports. And I truly don't know what the answer is. It's always a dangerous thing to ask a question when you don't know what the answer is, but I'm not dead set in voting for or against. I'm just trying to get a better understanding of it.
With the new executive director at the airport, who's been here now, I think 3 months, and he came from another airport and then another airport, so he has lots of experience. He has plans, and we currently are having a strategic business plan. We hired a individual to do, this is the 3rd one he's actually has performed for our new executive director, to say, here is what can happen here at this airport. There is a huge amount of opportunity at this airport for growth that just simply has not been taken advantage of. In my view of what, based on my experience there is a lot of opportunity. There is a new finance manager that started Monday. She has a master's degree in accounting, and I am staying on at the airport until she feels comfortable that I don't need to be there anymore. And we, again, with the new airport director, I know he plans to do some big changes in terms of what is the appropriate staff. But along with that, with the spaceport license,
Yeah.
which is one of the few in the country, and
Hard fought for.
pardon me?
Very hard fought for.
Yes, okay, so you're more aware of it than me. There's big plans. There's big plans, and we don't want to miss out on the plans because we have a need for money for 30 or 60 days.
All right, Madam Chair, I'll go with you on this one, since it does more heavily impact your district than mine. The only thing I would ask in supporting this, though, is that we put a request, and I'm not going to condition the vote on it by any means, but we put a request that they shop that around, because brand loyalty is great when all else is equal. If they're charging you the same as the next lowest, wonderful, but frankly, I'm more concerned about the dollars that end up getting expended than the name that's on the bill every month.
Okay,
So I'll defer to the chair. If she's good with it, I'll be good with it as well. I just am much more comfortable with the folks that are at the helm now than I was previously.
Just so I can say I said something, if you don't mind. Adam Burr, General Counsel for Titusville Coke Airport Authority. Good points. I think the issue we're trying to resolve right now is the fact that we're paying for money we're not using, which when we have a line of credit, we'll only draw down when we need the money, and it'll be the matching dollars and allows us to bridge that gap between the 30 or 60 days. So we have that savings. The other thing it allows us to do, I think, is be light on our feet. So to your point about the amount, one of the things we wanted to be able to do was act quickly. A lot of these folks want to see site improvements. They want to see maybe some site planning before they come in. We're not prospecting by any stretch. Don't worry about that. But
I didn't think you were prospecting.
we don't do that. But certainly we want to be able to move with the speed of business, as lame as that sounds. And there are a lot of other places we compete heavily with other places, including other spaceports. There are a couple even fairly nearby. We did shop it a little bit. We're kind of an atypical borrower. That's why this ended up as a conventional loan 3 or 4 years ago, because there are very few banks. It's getting to be better, but there are very, very few that have familiarity with airports and federal entities that accept federal dollars, rather not federal entities, but that accept federal dollars. So we are limited in the subset, but we did get, I think, a couple, and this, I think, was the most aggressive. So I appreciate your diligence. I really do. Those are the same questions that I asked and that I would ask if I was you, and again, appreciate
Thank you.
your support if this helps, or I can answer any more questions. that you have.
I'm comfortable if the chair is comfortable.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to reiterate, I'm happy you guys are on board. I've long considered Tyco to be a diamond in the rough. I especially had that driven home to me by none other than Jeff Bezos. At one time, he landed there, and he was quite dismayed at the quality of that airport. And he's the one that said, what is wrong with this county? This could be such a shining star. And with that in mind, I really went overboard with my 2 appointments, and I spent a lot of time finding 2 people that I thought would be exceptional on that board, along with the other people that are on there. So I have every confidence that this, and Steve Borowski, to your point, Steve Borowski has been working closely with the airport, and I won't go into that anymore, but he's been working very closely with the airport for 4 or 5 months now. Because he does know, and he did such a terrific job down there, and I wanted that knowledge to be imparted firsthand to the new people. So he's been there, and I have every confidence there are going to be great things coming from this airport and the people running it. So kudos to them, and kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
thank you.
As you can tell, we're all very vested in this airport. We all have a lot of heart with it, and thank you. Thank you for all
Don't
you're
forget about Merritt
doing.
Island's little strip, too.
I threw you all in.
We still got a little piece.
We had Commissioner Zonka, very, very much a part of it, and Commissioner Smith, and so thank you for everything.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So
Appreciate it.
that's a motion, Commissioner Lober?
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Motion, do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. We're moving into public comment.
Madam
I have-
Chair?
Yes, sir.
Can if this is okay, and I'll defer to Abby, can we invite Mr. Bezos to spend anything he wants to improve that facility? I'm happy to accept his money unless there's some prohibition.
Yes, sir.
Or Mr. Musk.
I'm thankful for the Amazon Distribution Center, so
Yeah, oh
very,
yeah.
very thankful in the Blue Origin. very thankful to Mr. Bezos. Let's give him whatever he needs there. Miss
Amen.
Janet Lynn Shea, are you here, ma'am? You're getting up. Okay.
Is this on
wonderful.
H1?
This is public comment, sir.
A public comment, okay.
Good evening. My name is Janet Lynn Shea, and I reside in Brevard County. I returned here on September the 30th of 18, and Brian Lober became a member of our commission on, I believe, the 20th of September of 18, right after I moved here. And I was very impressed by what you said, Mr. Lober, because you had, well, you know, I'm a voter, right? I pay your salary. I want to be a part of Brevard County, make sure that all of our citizens are well taken care of. And I enjoyed the part that you specifically had said that you felt it was necessary to reduce the commissioner's pay. It was $58,145, and you said, wouldn't it be great to reduce it to $8,231, bringing your salaries to a total of $49,914. Okay, however, that was not approved, and it was put up for the vote to the taxpayers, and so it never happened. But I thought that was very nice that
Thank you.
you at least tried that. And you wanted to give it back to the county, and the reason you stated that amount, $49,914, because that was the county's median household income back then. Okay, and you felt that was only fair. And your other comment was that I believe District 2 deserves a qualified candidate, and I will not be a puppet for anyone, not be a yes person or a rubber stamper for endeavors of other commissioners. And you didn't attack your opponent, Vicki Mitchner. We've had Dwight Ziegler run several times. He has not made it successfully here. And also, you had nominated Alton Edmond to be on the Board of Commissioners. However, you removed that nomination, stating that the climate of our current atmosphere here in Brevard was not conducive at that time. And I was very disappointed. Being an educator, many of you are educators, very well aware of systemic racism and how it affects our community. And you had the opportunity to diversify this board, but you didn't take it. Okay, and all of the faces looking back at me today, with the exception of our recorders, look just like me. We're not well represented in this county. Okay, you also are in charge of Sheriff Wayne Ivy's budget. Okay, he has not, even to our tax assessor, Scott Ellis, disclosed what his line items are, what his budget is. He refuses to state how he's spending the money. Therefore, when he asks for his 2022 budget, I would ask that you would ask for his budget.
Thank you, ma'am.
Line item by line item.
I'm sorry, your time's
The
up.
other thing I need
Ma'am,
to
your
bring
time's
up
up.
is that you removed, Ms. Pritchett, the fluoride from MIMS residents, from the poorest
Please
part
respect
of
the
MIMS
quorum.
residents. I am asking this commission, this Board of Commission, to reinstate
Are you here, sir? Okay, sir, if you would just state your name for the record.
My name is Terrence Thomas.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I come down to talk about, you all are aware of the shooting that took place down in Melbourne where the young man was killed and the officer was, I guess, assaulted with a, getting pistol whipped or whatever. And I'm trying to figure out why did y'all allow the sheriff of Brevard County to go out and do a fundraising thing on shirts, T-shirts, about the death of this young man and saying that, coming on national TV saying that this young man got what he deserved, that evil could never be dead enough. I mean, you're a public figure and supposed to be very professional, and I'm trying to figure out how did this go about? Y'all allow the sheriff of Brevard County to make such a statement, you know what I'm saying? For him to disrespect the living family of this man, and then come on TV and say that he got exactly what he deserved. And then you allow your officer to kill 2 teenagers over in Cocoa that was in an area that the sheriff department had no business being in anyway. But then come to my knowledge, finding out today that the same officer that did the shooting is now deceased himself. I wonder, did they drug test him during the shooting and all that stuff, everything that took place when those kids got killed, you know? And I think the sheriff is out of control. And to be around here making shirts and getting money off of it, that's very disrespectful. What if I go make a shirt and say, well, okay, well, here's the beat down. I mean, nobody, I'm sorry about the officer getting whooped. I'm sorry about the killing of the young man. But if it would have been somebody else, the sheriff would have covered up and said, okay, well, he was having mental issues. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man, it's not right. So that's all I want to address with the county commission and all that, you know, it's not right. And I think something should be done about it. I think the sheriff should be suspended, or he owed the family of the young man a very deep apology.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lober, sir.
A few thoughts as to some of what we heard in public comment. First, as far as Mr. Edmond's concerned, I've known Alton since he became an attorney. He's been a friend of mine for some years. I disagree with him on a lot of political things. I agree with him on some. When it comes to firearm ownership, for instance, I agree with him, at least by and large with respect to his respect for the Second Amendment. I put him up for Community Action Board, and as far as, you know, not standing behind it, the bottom line was, at the end of the day, right or wrong, if I would have left that on, 2 things would have happened. It's not an either or, they both would have happened. We would have had our sheriff dragged through the mud, and we would have had Alton dragged through the mud. I get along with both of them. I don't benefit, and I don't see a benefit for either of them in having a discussion where we're going to have people that despise the sheriff on one side and people that despise Alton on the other side, just basically talking about how horrible the other, you know, each are. That would not have done anything beneficial for anyone. Realizing that, I went ahead and I pulled that item before it ever came up here, and I put on Sita Begee, who's done an excellent job on there for this Community Action Board. It's my intention to reappoint her probably at the next meeting. As far as diversity is concerned, I think she can check quite a few of the same boxes as Mr. Edmond can, and perhaps even then some. So as far as Mr. Edmond's concerned, I've had him cover cases for me prior to serving as a commissioner. I don't have any concern in terms of his abilities or his intellect. I think he's a fine individual insofar as his abilities practicing law. But with respect to putting him up, there was just no benefit to anyone. All it would have done is turn this into a circus where he'd end up looking worse and the sheriff would end up looking worse. So 2 people I get along with would be battered here for nothing. As far as the items with respect to Sheriff Ivey that were brought up by the second gentleman that came to speak here, you have some points that I respect. What I would tell you, though, is as far as suspending the sheriff or ordering the sheriff to do something, we don't have any ability to do that whatsoever. Just as with our clerk of court, just as with our tax collector or property appraiser, it is a totally separate, autonomous office that is elected by the citizens of Brevard. If there's a concern, frankly, I would say either FDLE or the state attorney's office, depending on the nature of the concern, might be, you know, a good basis to start, or even the attorney general's office. But frankly, just as I don't want the sheriff dictating to me, and whether it's Wayne or whether it's someone else, how we need to conduct our business, I don't know that it's appropriate for me to tell him, whether I agree with what he's done or not, that he should or shouldn't do something a particular way. With respect to the budget concerns that were brought up by the first speaker, I'll tell you that every time I've had a conversation with either our sheriff or with his internal staff that handle the budget and prepare it for him, the questions that I've had, I've always gotten answers to. And the folks that have brought up specific questions for areas where they either didn't feel they got enough information or wanted more info, I've never had a problem getting that info for them. I was never stonewalled. I was never told no or I refused to do it. But this request to have a line item budget, I don't care if he's buying Pilot or Bic brand pens or if he's buying, I don't know who makes this, Paper Mate or Sanford brand pencils. I just don't care. In the scheme of an organization that has a 7, 8, 9-digit budget, BCSO, I don't have the time, nor does anyone, to go into the minutia of determining whether he's buying the paper fasteners at Sam's versus Office Max. So I've been satisfied with the level of transparency that he's provided when I've requested. As far as asking for a line item budget, I just would encourage folks, if there's a particular area of concern, I would just ask him whatever the concern is and not necessarily ask for something where it's broken down to a level of detail about how many sheets of paper or what the weight of the paper is. I don't know that that's reasonable for an organization that size. I've never seen any other constitutional office provide that. I've never seen any other constitutional officer be asked for that. I agree with a lot of what he does. I disagree with some of what he does. But again, it's an autonomous office where he's been elected a number of times by constituents here, overwhelmingly so, the vast majority, if not all those times. And just because we don't take action one way or the other with respect to it, it doesn't mean that we either condone or, in the opposite sense, that we oppose anything that he does or doesn't do. The fact is our crime rate is lower, and in that sense I respect it, but I don't know that the concerns are necessarily able to be addressed by this body. But I appreciate you bringing them up. I agree with some of the concerns that you've identified, and I think they're valid.
But you don't think nothing should be done? You don't think the sheriff or the family to the deceased young man that telling them coming on national TV and saying that he got exactly what he deserved? And then the thing I have the problem with is you got the sheriff, you got the state attorney, you got the Cocoa Police Department, you got all these guys that come out and publicly shake hands. You got pictures of them hanging out with each other. You know what I'm saying? So when I go to court or when somebody go to court, then how I know y'all ain't sat down in a room and discussed all this, or y'all ain't sit down over a drink and talk about all this here. You know what I'm saying?
I'll just leave it at this. Just so it doesn't get too much of a back and forth, I'll leave it at this. I'm not saying that something should or shouldn't be done. I'm just saying that this isn't the board that has the authority to do it. All I can do is give you my subjective opinion as to whether I would have done something or not done something, or whether I would apologize or not apologize, but we don't have the authority, we don't have a mechanism to do something regardless of what way a majority of the board here feels. But I understand where you're coming from. I think you're just in the wrong place with respect to us not having that authority.
You're the county commissioner. You're the one that's writing the check for him and paying him, right? You're the one that's paying him.
We don't have a choice.
Well, I understand, but they say I could come in and make a statement, right? So I did that. So I'm saying, and then you did not bug me and say that my 3 minutes or however much time I had to talk was up. So if it's up, then I'll go sit down. But
You've been very respectful, sir.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your communication.
And if you want, give me a call afterward. I'm not going to be back at the office tonight, but I'm happy to talk with you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll just write down my number and give it to you.
Commissioner Lober, can we get that in between?
Yeah, sure. If you want, I can just put it on the record if that works for you.
Yeah, or is Britt's here?
Actually, Rocket's here. Do you have a card, Rocket?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zonka?
Yes, sir.
It's not going to go anywhere if I say anything.
No, I do want to make a couple comments, not to you, sir, but it is sad when anybody dies. It's been a weird time we've been through with the COVID. I think it's created great fear, and it's also created great division. And it's going to take a long time to get this trust back and for people to heal as a nation. So I think we got to get to a place where we respect one another and we're honest. There is definitely a need for law and order and parameters, and we all have to find a way to get back into a path of respecting each other and living within those parameters, so everybody here can live a safe life. But I did want to comment, it is sad when anybody dies. It really is. So, ma'am, I'm sorry, you can't yell out in here. It's just, it's sad when anybody dies, and that does touch my heart strongly. So I wanted to make that comment. Commissioner Zonka, did you want to?
No.
Okay.
I was just, I don't want to keep going in circles with what Commissioner Lober said, but bottom line is he's an elected official, he's a constitutional officer. We have power over his budget, but even if he brought us a budget and we didn't approve it, he appeals to the state and he gets the budget approved. The money that comes to the county just goes to him. And I'm not going to try to debate, the shooting that occurred. I mean, the officer was getting shot at, and the video is pretty darn clear. Should he have said those things? That's up for public opinion. But if somebody's trying to shoot my family, my love, my spouse, police officer or not, that is an evil act. And again, it's unfortunate when anybody dies. It is unfortunate when anybody dies. I'm not talking about your boys, ma'am. I'm not. I promise you. But again, we can't go back and forth. We just can't. Okay. All right, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item H1.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Commissioners. H1 is a petition to vacate public utility and drainage easement, 300 Surf Spray Drive. It's located in Merritt Island, north of Highway 520. It's requested that the board conduct a public hearing to consider vacating part of a public utility and drainage easement, vacating a portion of a 15-foot wide public utility and drainage easement to allow for the construction of a proposed pool.
Do you want to just pause for a second, because I didn't hear any of that?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, thank you.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Yeah, I know what we're doing here, too. I'll second that.
Okay. All right, that was easy for you, huh? Have a motion by Commissioner Lover, second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. We're into item I1.
And Madam Chair, as they're getting set up, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve I-1.
Okay.
Get Mr. Gugelman out of here.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
Thank you for your
And,
patience.
Thank you, sir, for what you're taking on. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. All right, item I2. Y'all want to just approve this one, too?
Madam Chair, I have a couple thoughts on this.
I knew you were, sir. You had one last time.
All right, so I'm just pulling up my computer here because I had a couple typed notes. So I've got three things that I figured if I really have to kind of boil it down to something concise that I wanted to focus on. These are just items to think of. I'm not saying anyone would necessarily do this, but this is something that if we just approved it as is, could be a problem. If we have a commissioner who's near the total of their office budget, or if they wish to be under their budget by a more substantial figure than they're otherwise slated to be, they could simply ask senior staff to come to their district office that could be 20, 30, 40 miles away from Vieira and have a slew of highly compensated, the highest compensated employees on the road with the opportunity cost of them being driving instead of doing work, where it doesn't show up on their travel expenses.
Mr. Lover, I quit doing that. I started coming up here to save all that money.
Right, no, and I'm not criticizing any particular commissioner. I don't know what the other folks do, but I'm saying, and I don't think you're by any means even
I
near
just
the...
want you to know that I did that for the first few years because I want them up in the district, but
Sure.
now I do drive down there to save all that
And
money.
I promise you, I didn't mean to be
Okay.
critical one way or the other of you or anyone else in particular. I didn't think, and I don't think, that you're the highest spending office by any means. But the point is, I think there are too many ways potentially to game this as it currently reads. The other concern that I have is if you look at the first year that any of us took office, if you look at those numbers, unless you kept the staff of your predecessor, it's going to look like you spent substantially more, and your office will have spent substantially more than you really did in the sense that you're paying out all that accrued leave and all of the accrued time off for a group of people you had no say over hiring, you had no say over either retaining or not retaining necessarily if they didn't want to remain there, or if they decided to leave along with their commissioner. And that's going to get attributed to them the way that this is written. And I don't know that someone who's coming in, let's say whoever succeeds Commissioner Smith November of next year, if he or she, whoever that might be, ends up having a totally different staff if Commissioner Smith then has folks who've been there for a number of years, for a couple terms, or even longer if he kept some of the staff of his predecessor. I don't know that it's fair to say to his successor, you can only spend a microscopic fraction of what anyone else spends.
I think you're right on that. Commissioner Lover, let me ask, because when I set this up talking with Jill about it, wasn't supposed to be included in this amount. Is Miss Jill here?
I'm right here,
Oh, there you
Commissioner.
are. We weren't throwing in those things that we had no control over, correct?
Correct. The leave payouts are actually paid for all county agencies out of the general government. We actually have a separate line item in the general government budget to pay for leave payouts. It was included in a report that was requested, that was provided, just a commissioner wanted to get an idea of what those amounts had been in the past. So we did provide that information, but it's paid out of a separate budget.
Yeah, because I know Tobias did bring that up.
Madam Chair, another item, and I know I've spoken with Jill about this. I honestly just cannot remember because I have so many conversations on some of these agenda items with staff. I don't remember how much has been discussed in a prior board meeting on the item when it's previously come up. But there are other expenses too, and I don't know, because it's not clear to me based on the way that the agenda item appears, whether they'd be included or not. I have been, and I think folks probably figure I might have been locked in the closet with a copier as a child as punishment or something, because I hate copier leases. I absolutely hate copier leases. Any organization that I've ever been with, I have encouraged them not to lease copiers if they have the means of buying them or borrowing money to buy them, because it's generally in their interest. You saw that with the plotter, where I threw a little bit of a stink over the plotter purchase that ended up saving us quite a few dollars. But my predecessor, to my understanding, wanted to have a leased copier. It is way more than what my office needs. It is overkill, and it's a big expense. If it were up to me, and I've already told staff, I don't want to renew it, but that's something where it's getting attributed to my office's budget, even though I never asked for it, I never wanted it. And frankly, I don't use it anywhere near as much as what a lot of people do. So there are other things in there.
Can you send it back?
There would be a buyout that would be involved in that. And normally part of the reason I don't like copier leases is because the buyouts are prohibitive.
Like cars.
So, I mean, if we limited this to things that we actually, to everything that we actually have the ability to make a decision on, I'm fine with that. But if it's something that's hanging over from a prior commissioner, I just don't know that it's fair to anyone to hold them responsible for what their predecessor did.
Well, do you have any others? When we did this, we try to set up our controllable costs. There's some things we can't control, like rent, electricity, those things you just have to have.
Rent.
But these are things, what I had noticed is like I would go to them and say, I need to do this, and I realized I didn't have to really, kind of work it with y'all, and I thought, I probably need to think this through better. But I think we've all settled into a good place. And actually, looking at your budget, you're going to have a little bit of space.
Oh, yeah. No, and I think we've always been the lowest, especially if you take out the payout costs my first year from my predecessors.
And I'm pretty comfortable, too. But I thought when the next commission group comes in, that we need to have something in place.
And I'm good with that, but I just would ask, if we keep it as is, as you proposed, I think we need to be flexible with folks when they come on board so that we're not punishing them for things they had no decision over.
Maybe they just bring it up. But that's so funny you bring up a copier. I mean, I love my copier. Don't take my copier.
You want mine? I'll give you mine.
I wish I would have thought that before. I think we got one right now. But I think something like that maybe for a conversation, but you've still got a lot of room to maneuver, and you're very responsible. You guys are all responsible. So I don't think it'd be this board that would be anything with an issue, but I just thought moving forward, it'd be a smart thing to do. They probably should have done this to us 8 years ago.
And Madam Chair, one other thing, and I just want to throw this out there. I'll support you either way on this. Frankly, I could rent a private space, and I'm not trying to be critical of the commissioners who do rent private spaces, but, I am proudly in the ugliest digs of probably any of us. Commissioner Tobias may have some degree of competition. I've been to his office in the past. If you want to include rent as well in this, I'm okay with that. If you don't, I'm okay with that as well. I just wanted to throw out there that I'm willing to go either way on that.
Okay, I would rather not, just because you have to set it in place. I mean, when I first got in, I had to get more local. And so we moved into a nice place, and it was kind of pricey. So I moved us to a place that's county-owned, so it's less. But it's nice, and I have a lower market up there. So you guys are always going to be spending more than District 1 is. I don't know if that's even fair to do it with you on that. So
I'll take your challenge, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And I'll move to approve it as well as it's listed.
Commissioner Zonka, ma'am.
Yeah, I was just going to make comment about the rent. At the time, with our office not being centrally located in our district, the county manager, not Mr. Vacate, but the county manager at the time, worked to try to find us the cheapest rent that was most central and easily accessible to our residents. We just didn't have county space anywhere else, so we were sort of stuck. We sort of retrofitted a small space just enough room for us to fit, and that was central to our district. But the sheriff needed the space for his animal services, and his guys were busting at the seams, so it made more sense since he had the entire rest of the building to let him use that space. So it wasn't necessarily a choice, but I wasn't heartbroken over it only because it put me more central and more accessible to the people I represent. So
Yeah.
it wasn't actually convenient for where I was living, but it was more convenient to the highway and to the district itself. So whether or not you want to include, that's up to you, but I'm happy to support this the way it is.
We've got a motion already, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion. Commissioner Smith? Yes, I'm looking at your name right now, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to know what is your object? What are you trying, what problem are you trying to solve?
I realize that as when we do budgets, and again, this has been a great commission, but we really don't have to get permission to do anything. And I thought, man, we probably need to at least be accountable to each other. So we should probably set a cap. And then if it goes over that cap, we should start having discussions as far as a board in the future. I don't think and none of us are going to do this moving forward, but I'm thinking the
Well,
next
I
set.
don't either. And I don't disagree with the purpose, your purpose. I think what I personally have an issue with is perhaps new incoming commissioners should have a budget on their employees. In other words, give them a number that they can work with, because they're all going to be new employees.
This is
for the
going to
most
do
part.
it.
Will that do it?
Yeah, this will do it. They can't go above this cap we're putting in.
So, just for example, if you have somebody that gets elected and says, I'm going to pay $100,000 to my number one girl or guy, there really isn't any reason not to. And then they could say, well, I need 3 employees at $100,000.
Well, now they don't get to.
No?
Well,
Yeah,
they could
we kept it.
pay 100, and I do something
Right, it's
not
your
at that level,
choice.
but I have one employee who's substantially higher compensated than most of the other employees, heck, in the organization, but I have one less full-time employee to allow me to do that. So I'm spending less overall, even though we have, generally speaking, better compensated employees than the average bear.
So that's really where I'm going, because the commissioners are the bosses and they self-regulate.
So they've got a pool, they can decide how they want to distribute it between their office staff.
And I'll,
If you guys are good with that.
And everything is subject to public record.
and I'll put out there
Always.
too, Commissioner
Public
Smith,
concern, so.
I'm flexible. If we have a new commissioner who comes on board and they have a legitimate expense that they need to incur in settling in, I'll do what I can to work with them. I would just ask, obviously, that they try to be reasonable about it. If you don't need to get a Lamborghini, don't get the Lamborghini, just get the Toyota or the Honda, but I'll work with them.
Don't stay at the Ritz, right?
I can't remember ever.
You
having
did
stayed at
that
the
last
Ritz.
week when we brought up the
Yeah,
thing.
oh, yeah.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Good work, guys. We're going to move to item J1.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I'm going to let them go ahead and read this one, though, because it's kind of
Yes,
fun.
ma'am.
But we got a motion. Hi, Miss Virginia. I saw Mr. Stoffer here. Did he leave? Sean Stoffer, was he here with you earlier? Yeah.
His item was on consent.
Oh, okay.
I heard the motion. I wasn't sure whether you wanted me to introduce the item.
I do. I think it's a wonderful
Okay.
item, so.
Thank you. Good evening. This is asking the chair to sign a letter to the Army Corps of Engineers to conduct a feasibility study regarding the 528 causeway effects on water quality issues in the Banana River. This would look at the possibility of removing the earthen causeway if DOT were to elevate the roadway, lengthening the bridge. The Army Corps of Engineers can investigate the extent to which the causeway supporting Highway 528 across the Banana River contributes to ongoing water quality issues, associated harmful algal blooms, consequential seagrass losses, and whether removal or modification of the causeway could be a significant part of ecosystem restoration for seagrass, fish, and marine life. The first 100,000 of the initial investigations would be 100% federally funded. If the feasibility cost were to exceed 100,000, then the county's cost share would be 50% of the remaining feasibility costs. If a feasible project is found, then this puts us in a place to receive a 65% federal cost share for the actual removal of the causeway and restoration. This is consistent with lots of other community support and board action.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for reading all that. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Smith. Are you trying to hit a light?
If he's going to second it, if I'm getting what I want, I'll be quiet.
Okay. All right. Motion is a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Well, Mr. Lober, if I knew that was the trick.
Yeah. Just tell me you're going to support what I want to support.
Okay. Item J2.
This is permission to submit to the FDEP 3 separate plans. This is all related to the new Florida statute of 403064. The plans are specific for South Beach's Water Reclamation Facility, the Barefoot Bay Water Reclamation Facility, and the South Central Water Reclamation Facility. In order to comply with the requirements of the law, the total expenditure that we're anticipating at today's rate is approximately $63 million. Submitting this plan prior to November 1st of this year allows us to get the work completed by 2032. Not submitting it by November 1st, we would still be required to comply with the law with a deadline of January 1st, 2028.
Commissioner Lober, sir?
Madam Chair, that'll be an M to the ocean, otherwise known as a motion.
Okay, District 2 made a motion. Oh, I'm going to say no on that one. Do I have a second?
I'll second in regular fashion.
Second by Commissioner Zonka. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. I know it's throwing me off. I'm not going to know what to call them here soon. Okay, item J3. I do have 2 cards on this, but sir, ma'am, if you want to.
Okay, thank you. This is consideration of options and then providing legislative intent and permission to advertise amendments for the selected option to Chapter 46 of the County Code, creating a new article entitled Landscape Irrigation. The reason for this is that the Water Management District Board has approved updates to their cost share program that requires, in order for us to be eligible to apply for their grants, to receive their grants, we must have landscaping irrigation ordinance that's consistent with the district's model ordinance. Excess irrigation wastes fresh water and carries pollution to sensitive waterways, including the Indian River Lagoon. The district has established watering schedules to try to reduce excess use of fresh water, such as odd-numbered addresses, watering only on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and even addresses on Thursdays and Sundays. Adoption of the model ordinance related to the enforcement provisions and penalties is not required. So you have options to either include the required language with enforcement, include it without enforcement, take no option, or other board direction.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to go ahead and call the cards. And then Commissioner Lober, is that a new light, sir?
Yes, it is. Just
Okay.
real briefly.
Yes, sir.
For their benefit when they come up, my inclination with respect to this is to go with option 2. I think that puts the county in the best possible standpoint, where we're not assuming any additional obligations or liability for that matter.
Okay.
So down the road, if someone wants to make a motion to that end, I'll support it.
I tend to agree with that right now. Mr. Rick Heffelfinger, sir? And Mr. Slusher, you're next. Good to see you again. Good to see you too, Mr. Heffelfinger.
Thank you. Rick Heffelfinger, 2000 Juniper Drive, Cocoa, Florida. Talking about J3, I find it really amazing how long this is. There's more in here than talks about whether we're going to spend $1 billion on a space program, I think. I don't know if we're just trying to get the grant here. That's fine. Whatever we do to get money, we can do that. I see there's a lot of exemptions, which basically puts no teeth in this, I guess, other than unless you've got a pump. But I plan to use the exemption that says I'm doing maintenance and I'm running my circuits 20 minutes each. So that's kind of a joke. I don't know if anybody else thinks that's, but there's a lot of words in here, and I don't know what the motivation was. If it's to get the grant, that's fine. But it just seems awfully silly that we're going to spend all that time to write an ordinance, and if you do enforce it, who's going to pay? Is that going to be the police? Are we going to have the water police? How many of those are we going to hire the water police? I mean, we used to have water restrictions whenever we had a drought. This is all the time. Why don't we just, hey, when we got problems with the water, let's all hold back. I don't understand why we're going to do this full time. That's all I got. Thank you.
We want the money.
You do want the money.
I'm just going to be out there and say it. I'd rather not play games.
Honesty,
We want the
I
money.
appreciate honesty, sir.
I was getting ready to find you some water, please.
Well, hey, if we can use the money for other things, I have no problem getting money either. Friday Road needs some work.
I got you, sir. Mr. Slusher, we haven't got to hear you for a little while. Good to have you back, sir. I know, he's so cute.
Nathan Slusher, 860 Allendale Street in Titusville. I'm going to disagree with Mr. Heffelfinger. I don't believe we should ever risk any rights for the citizens, even if it's just irrigation, for the sake of money. I just don't think it's okay. You know, I read through both the enforcement and the non-enforcement portions, and the enforcement portions kind of get me because it gives every law enforcement officer within the county the right to just stop and write tickets whenever they see sprinklers on. And it also makes it possible for any citizen to go to jail for 60 days for watering their plants. So I definitely don't think that one would be acceptable. And if you have a law without enforcement, then what is the whole purpose of the law? Just to be on the books? So Mr. Lober kindly told us the purpose is the money. I just don't believe that it's okay to write more laws just to get more money. It doesn't seem acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Always appreciate you. Commissioner Lober, new light or old light?
New light. I'll go ahead and meet the last gentleman halfway. I agree with his concerns about the enforcement and also the first gentleman as far as the water police. I don't know that we have any volunteer, either auxiliary reserve deputies who want to be water police. I see some green heads or green-suited individuals shaking no. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to go option 2, which for benefit of the folks that aren't in front of an agenda packet, is without enforcement provisions, leaving that up to the district.
I have a motion to have a second.
I would second that one.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. We have no more public comment cards. Mr. Abate, sir.
We have one item, as the board will recall, a short while ago at a prior board meeting, we brought before the board an agreement for sale of approximately 10 acres of property at the utilities facility here at South Central to FP&L for the purpose of a substation. Yesterday afternoon, we received some information from FPL with a specific request, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Denninghoff to explain that a little bit more and what that request was.
Good evening, Commissioners. The request from FP&L was a time-sensitive one, which is why we're here at this point. Their request is effectively to be granted permission to do some land clearing in accordance with their approved site plan, which is pending the transaction to close on the property. So currently, the county owns the property. We haven't closed yet. And their need is to, or their desire is to get the clearing done prior to November 1st in time to comply with their permits with regard to endangered species and specifically in this case, the crested caracara. Their nesting season starts November 1st. They cannot clear any time after that. So their request is to be able to do that. We've written a draft agreement that would allow them to do that. It protects the county, indemnifies us, requires them to comply with all permits, comply with they don't clear anything more than what is permitted in the site plan that they've already gotten approval for. It prevents them from removing anything from the property until they own it. And so we think we've got ourselves protected with all the typical standard language that would be in a typical sort of a contract. So what we're asking is to facilitate the construction of this needed substation for the county manager to be able to execute the agreement when it is prepared, approved by the county attorney's office and risk management, and then also to authorize FP&L to be able to apply for any remaining clearing permit that might be required in accordance with their site plan.
Did you guys get all that for a motion over there?
Madam Chair?
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to approve. It's something that we desperately need, and we need to move this forward. Otherwise, we're going to cost FPL a lot of aggravation.
I'll second it.
She just beat you to it,
She
but
did
you're
beat
on
me
now
to
for
it.
talking.
Yeah, I do have one comment, though. I would just ask if the board's okay with it, because these things, frankly, if they have to come up in public comment, or pardon me, in board reports, they have to come up in board reports. But, and this is not a dig at staff, I promise you. This is not
No,
in any
I
sense
got a
staff's
call
doing.
that was the last minute Hail Mary that they had to do.
Yeah,
so.
if FPL, if we could ask them in getting back to them in the future to please give us more notice so that we don't have to do these things on board report.
Yes, sir. I got a last minute call on this, and I told them it was okay to bring it up. So that's why I allowed them to do it, just
And
so
I-
you know.
Again, it's not you, it's not staff, but just in the future, unless someone on the board objects, if we could at least relay from one or more commissioners' standpoints that we would really like a little more notice in the future. I'm happy to support it today, but I think it's unfortunate to have to bring it up on board reports.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Miss Abby, Jordan Lee.
No report, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Lober.
All right, we like guns up here, don't we?
Yes.
Okay, good. Actually, I got a .45 caliber black powder rifle a couple of weeks ago at a charity auction. I have no idea what to do with this thing. I've never fired a black powder rifle in my life. It looks cool. It's heavy as heck. I could probably club something with it. Not that I would want to do that. It's going to be a wall hanger in all likelihood. Now, the reason I bring that up is I got a call not too long ago, I think it was yesterday, from a gentleman who is a colleague of mine, an attorney locally here, who represents some folks, and I truly don't know whether it's the group that uses the Melbourne Auditorium for gun shows or the group that uses the Moose Lodge in Merritt Island for gun shows, or if it's a separate group altogether. I have no idea. But what he told me was that there was some pushback or some lack of enthusiasm on the part of an individual staff member with whom he spoke when applying to use, and frankly, Commissioner Smith, I think it was in D4, the Vieira Rec Center for purposes of having a gun show. I don't want to put staff in a position where they have to make policy decisions. So my thought was I'd like to make a motion, and if you want me to do it today, I'll do it today. I'd prefer to do it at the next meeting so that we can have it on the agenda and not do this in board reports. As I mentioned with the last item, it was not really my favorite thing to do. But what I'd like to do is to authorize Parks and Rec to rent out, if you're okay with it, Commissioner Smith, the Vieira Rec Center, or at least any rec center in District 2 they want, or any Parks and Rec facility in D2, provided they meet insurance requirements as set out by risk management, and also provide law enforcement in a manner equivalent to what the Melbourne Auditorium requires, assuming it's a comparable size venue. If it's a larger venue, whatever is felt appropriate for that. If it's a smaller venue, maybe we can scale it back. But I think if they have law enforcement available just to prevent any sort of issues from coming up, not that they would anyway, and also have adequate insurance naming the county as an additional insured, I would like to have them able to do that. If you're comfortable with it at the Vieira Rec Center, I don't want to talk them out of it. If you are, I'm happy to have them in my district.
Let me throw this out, and I'm going to regret doing this, but is this something we typically don't allow? Don't we
I think
typically
it's
allow
something where
things
they've
like
not
this?
gotten the request hardly at all.
But
and
it's
I
something we
didn't-
would allow, right?
I would have to defer to Mr. Vacate on that.
Getting a little.
Or Ms. Dornby.
I don't believe we've had this request for this particular location, and I see Ms. Donner has also arrived, but just one concern that we were looking into when we received this request is that there is a federal legislation that an individual cannot have a firearm within 1,000 feet of a school.
Gotcha.
So we do
That's
have
a
Vieira
problem.
High very close to our building. I think it's actually within that 1,000 feet, so that may actually nix that idea for that location.
Okay.
But as far as other locations, I'm not sure if the Parks and Rec Department has received any other requests.
And if that's the case, my motion will, just in an abundance of caution, say to the extent lawful. or the extent permissible by applicable law. That way, if it isn't within the 1,000, they can do it, and if it is within the 1,000, they can just pick another location so that we don't create an issue for them or allow them to create issue for themselves.
Since you're asking me, and it's my district, I would say that if you bring it up at the next meeting, I would be likely to support it, provided that you confer with Ms. Abby and make sure that we dot all our i's and cross our t's, and then I'll be good with it.
Sounds good.
Has to be at the next meeting.
And if not, we'll love to have them somewhere in D2.
Sounds like a good program. Commissioner Smith,
No comment.
Commissioner Zonka.
And I don't want to keep anybody much later than we've already been here for this meeting. It didn't need to be this long. But I just, it's sort of random, but I came across a neat opinion piece in the Florida Today, which I don't normally always read. But Wayne Price did a really great opinion piece about us being nicer to one another. COVID's got everybody on edge, and people have been mean, and they've been hard to deal with, and everybody's got an opinion, and everybody's made it so political. And I just want to say, keep that in mind. Everybody's very passionate about their opinion on one side or the other, on vaccination versus unvaccinated. I'm proud to say Brevard's numbers are finally going down, which is wonderful. But just be patient. Your opinion is just as important as the next guy's, even if you don't agree, and be respectful of one another, because just don't listen to the politicians. Do your own research, read the science, read actual evidence-based medicine science, and make decisions based on that, on what's good for your family. But don't take it out on your friends because they don't agree with you, one side or the other. And just be patient and kind with one another.
That's such a good word, Commissioner Zonka. I think we're getting into a election season again. I'm hoping people that remember that we're just people,
right,
and just kind of be nice to each other. And here's the thing too. I had a vaccine, but I will fight for your right not to have one if you don't want one. I mean, I don't know where we're going with all this and how angry people are getting. It's just, it's not okay. But I did also want to make a statement. We had the situation earlier, and it is sad when anybody dies, but I don't want to take away from the fact that we have a sheriff who is doing a very good job in protecting us in a very heated environment. And you're not going to agree with everything he does, but he is doing a great job keeping us safe, and he's got a great heart. Does everybody do everything everybody else agrees with? No, but it's what we do is work together. And I just want to say here, the last moment out, I just appreciate everything he's doing. Just want to make that statement.
Amen.
Okay, on that, I'll call this meeting adjourned.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.